We got a good group here. All right, here we go. How to automate your follow boss account to get the most out of your agents and lead sources so you can build a profitable business. First, thank you from InterFace. I really appreciate you being here. The team's put a lot of effort into getting this product up and running. A lot of you have experience with our 1.0 system, our integrations with Open to Close and Follow Boss and Sisu and Twilio. And now this is the first piece of InterFace 2.0 that we're launching. We put a lot of work into it, so we're really excited. So what you'll learn on this call, how to set up Follow Boss smart lists so agents always know which leads to follow up with, how to automate holding them accountable so no leads slip through the cracks, and how to systematically build automation into Follow Boss until it becomes a lead conversion machine that runs on autopilot. Before we start, so the information will be helpful regardless of whether you are or aren't an InterFace customer. If you decide to become a customer, we'll have some exciting bonuses for you when you sign up. And existing InterFace customers can also get bonuses, so stick around. So how this will work, it probably run about 45 to 60 minutes. We may linger after that for a little bit, maybe go into some demos or more advanced or nuanced. Then I'll answer any questions you may have. So type in your questions as you think of them. Get out your notepad and start writing things down. Action items, if you don't write it down, you're not going to remember it. And this is being recorded, so I'll tell you how to access the replay at the end. And actually, let me double check that it is being recorded before. Yeah.
Looks like it's recording. I can see it on my side.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So origin story. What am I doing here? What do I have to do with Follow Boss or real estate? So I started my career as a real estate agent in 2007, selling multifamily properties in the Los Angeles area. That was back in 2007, the best possible time to get into real estate. At that time in my life, wasn't in a position to handle the downturn. I ended up transitioning to a career playing online poker professionally. You can see my office here down on the beach in Mexico. Oddly enough, online poker is very similar to data analytics. So I transitioned to a career in data science and analytics, which led me to getting hired as the database manager and then being promoted to the chief data officer of Reef Point Realty, which was the top selling real estate team in San Diego at the time. We went from about 320 transactions a year when I started to 460 transactions a couple of years later. And so then I started this business as an automation and integration solution for So what is InterFace? So we're an automation and integration as a service platform that connects the best web applications in the real estate industry, such as Follow Boss and Open to Close, and then we enhance their capabilities. So our focus is keeping agents in Follow Boss and building customizations that force agents to do what they're supposed to do and prevents them from messing everything up and breaking everything.
Wait, you mean agents don't do everything perfectly every single
Right?
time? They don't just follow the rules every time?
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
That's strange.
And we recently partnered with Kyle Whistle of the Whistle Realty Group, the current top selling team in San Diego, and actually the team with the most volume so far at EXP in 2024 to add analytics to our platform. So before we dive into automation, I want to go over phase 2 and phase 3 of our launch, which is web forms and analytics. So we just started beta testing our web form platform. It's a drag and drop form builder. Forms appear within an embedded app in Follow Boss, and you can trigger a bunch of automation from the forms. So you come in here and you build out the forms, and then over on the side panel in Follow Boss, the form appears. And then it simplifies agent training because instead of training agents on what data points to fill out at what stages, they just fill out the form and it makes it super easy. Simplifies
Honestly, If I can chime in there really
Yeah.
quick, like this whole form-driven architecture, like for those that don't know me, I'm Justin, CEO of Bar Agency. We solve many of the tech issues that exist in the real estate industry for a lot of people that you probably know. And this form-driven system is like the best way to standardize an entire organization. It's not just Daniel didn't just make this up. Like the Fortune 500 is all of those. If you've ever worked for an enterprise company, everything is driven by forms being submitted because it's the only way to standardize the data getting in. And it gives you also something to, when you simplify agent training, it gives you something to like beat your team over the head with, which is a statement that is fill out the form. All right, great. Agent comes in after their first weekend and they had their first listing appointment. They come to the sales meeting and they're super pumped. They go, how do I turn in this listing? What do I do next? You fill out the form. Okay, great. I got my listing under contract. What do I do? You fill out the form. You say it enough times where your agents will turn around when somebody asks a question like that and says, oh my gosh, just fill out the form. I cannot hear Justin say this one more time. They'll write it on your gravestone. And that's when you got it ingrained into your organization. But from one form fill, yeah, like Daniel's saying, like you can change all the stages, create deals and FUB, apply the tags that you want, edit the custom fields, and push it out to Sisu in a Google sheet that you're using, and port it through Zapier to whatever else you want to do. So from one form fill, you can kill a lot of birds with that one single stone. So it is like having that single point of entry for information is like paramount to running technology at a really high scale.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm curious who on the webinar is already using like Google Forms or Jot Forms. Type forms into the chat if anyone's using forms, because I know a lot of teams are already using forms and trying to integrate them with Follow Boss, but they're not. It's not easy to go from a form through Zapier to the right lead record and then trigger all this stuff.
And it's
So
annoying that you have to copy and paste data that already exists in Follow Boss, right? Like
yeah,
to like
exactly.
go to a form and copy the
Yeah.
email address of the client and the name and the agent. Like that's pretty annoying. We know that agents aren't going to do that if there's like a lot of resistance, and they're just going to get it wrong. One misspelling on that email and ta-da,
Mhm.
it
Yep.
didn't find the contact in Follow Boss and it did not sync correctly. So this really does lock it all to the rails.
Yeah, exactly. And let me take a step back. What we have Justin on here, and to give you an idea of why we have Justin on here is his team is great at implementing all this stuff. So we built out some really cool tools, but our focus is on building cool tools. Justin's team is what is it? A fractional CTO service. So all
Fractional
stuff.
CTO. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a fancy word for the best place to get all of your technology sorted out without having to do it yourself.
Yeah. If you need any assistance on implementing any of this stuff, Justin is the place to go. Awesome. Okay. So after Forms, we're launching analytics. So every CRM other than Salesforce has terrible reporting, and Follow Boss is not an exception to that rule. So we're going to have customizable, exportable reports, goals, challenges, leaderboards, lead source ROI. Essentially, what we're using our automation platform for is feeding all of the raw follow boss data into an analytics database. And then you'll be able to build whatever reports you want from that data. And there's really not another platform out there that's capable of it. So it's going to be pretty awesome. And the first platform that or the first piece that we're launching is conversion ratios. So we're going to have actual conversion ratios from appointment set through the close stage, where we're going to filter down by how many appointments were set over the last 6 months, and then what exactly did those appointments turn into. And so there'll be a team dashboard showing the whole team conversion ratios. And then underneath it, it'll be a color-coded report showing your agent's conversion ratios and how those relate to the team conversion ratio. So if you're at a 50% appointment set to appointment met conversion ratio, and one agent is, at 55%, that'll show him in green. If he's maybe at 48%, it'll show him in orange. And if it's, let's say, less than 45%, they'll be in red. And you'll easily be able to see which of your agents, where they can improve. So we're really excited about this. Ideally, we're going to start beta testing this by the end of the month, but this is in our roadmap to come. Now back to the task at hand. So if you're ready to learn how to automate your Follow Boss account, type yes into the chat. There we go. All right. I just went to the wrong slide. I back up. There we go. All right. The first rule of any technology used in a business is that automation applied to an efficient operation will magnify the efficiency. The second is that automation applied to an inefficient operation will magnify the inefficiency. So what we're going to go over to start is how we can make our system efficient and then automate it. So the first part of our automation amplification playbook is planning. So each day your agents need to know which leads to follow up with. And what Follow Boss does better than most CRMs is most CRMs, you have task lists. You have a lead, you're supposed to follow up, there's a task, call the person, you call the person, you check that task off, then you create a new task and do that all over again. Next thing, we have 300 tasks that have been built up. You don't know which tasks are high priority and which aren't, and it just turns into a worthless system. So what Follow Boss has done is built smart lists that simplify that process. So you can create different smart lists that will let your agents know which contacts to follow up with at the appropriate time. When they do the follow up, it drops the person off that smart list. And then when it's time to follow up again, they appear again. So to set up your smart list, you want to define your communication stages. And so these are your contact stages in Follow Boss. These are the stages that the Whistle team is using. So we have hot, warm, cold, active, shopping, past client, trash, and sphere. So what you don't want to do here, what a lot of teams do, is they just mirror their deal stages. And that kind of defeats the purpose of them. What you want to do is use them to identify how often you should be following up. So next, you want to outline your smart list. So now that you have the different communication stages, how are those going to map to your smart list? These are some of the smart lists that the Whistle team uses. So new, so contacts that need to be contacted immediately, hot, contacts in the hot or active stages that need to be contacted weekly. So you just want to have an overview or outline of what your different smart lists are going to be. And then you need to map your filters to make those smart lists functional. However you mapped out your smart list, you come in here, build a different smart list, share them with your team. But the challenges with Follow Boss smart lists is the activity parameters, such as last call or last communication, don't differentiate between team members. So a lot of teams have ISAs, call contacts, set an appointment, hand it off to an outside sales agent. Now you have an ISA and an OSA on the same lead. And so if your ISA reaches out to that contact after the appointment to see what happened, that's going to drop that contact off the assigned agent smart list and vice versa. And so it just leads to leads slipping through the cracks. There are also limitations on what can be filtered on. So you can filter by last call, but you can't filter by last communication or last conversation. If you want to have a smart list that somebody needs to have a conversation with somebody each week rather than a call, that's not possible in Follow Boss right now. So the next piece of our automation amplification playbook is accountability. So agents are responsible for taking action within Follow Boss to maximize lead conversion, and we can automate consequences for not living up to those expectations. Who feels this is what agent accountability feels like? Type herding cats into the, yeah. When I was at Reef Point, we had over 50 agents by the time I left. And getting those agents to do what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do it is not fun. So the more you can automate that process, the better. And by the way, if you're not using ChatGPT and OpenAI, I made this image in about 3 minutes. It's really incredible what it can do. So here's an example of a scenario where you want to hold the agents accountable, and you probably have some rules of engagement that they need to follow. So you have a new lead in Follow Boss. What are your rules of engagement? So you may want it to be that they have to call within 10 minutes, and if there's no answer, send a text. And it might also vary depending on the lead source. How you handle a Zillow lead is likely different than how you're going to handle, a Ylopo lead. But there's virtually no way in Follow Boss to ensure this happens, and gets even more challenging to ensure appropriate activity for existing leads. So when a new lead comes in, it's a little easier to hold agents accountable than now that lead's 5 days old or 10 days old. So the challenges around agent accountability is there's limitations in Follow Boss for automating lead reassignment, which leads to manually going lead by lead to checking if stuff is happening appropriately, and manual processes lead to errors and mistakes. And so the last piece of the automation amplification playbook is training. So training agents on what to do in Follow Boss and when to do it is challenging. So here's an example of what typically would need to happen after an appointment is set. An appointment is set, you need to create the appointment in Boss. A lot of teams want to create the deal. Depending on the type of appointment, you want to trigger action plans. You might want to add a note with some info on the appointment. You're probably going to want to update the stage and apply tags. And this is just appointments. There's at every different inflection point throughout a transaction, there's a bunch of stuff that needs to happen. And training your agents on all the different stuff that needs to happen is super challenging, and they're never going to remember to do it 100% of the time. And it's really not even going to approach 100% of the time. And that brings us to the final piece that kind of ties all this stuff together, which is process. So standard operating procedures act as a roadmap for your team on what they need to do and when they need to do it. But they can also act as a roadmap on what to automate and what you can use as triggers for that automation. So going back to our appointment example, new buyer appointment gets set. We need to create an appointment, create a deal, trigger an action plan, add the buyer tag, update the contact stage, create a note with relevant data, populate background. And so if you take the time to map out your processes, now you can go through this and say, buyer appointment is set. That can be the trigger, the appointment in Follow Boss. And now which of these pieces that happen after it can we automate so the agent doesn't have to do it? And this is the part where agents start loving Follow Boss, because if you start removing tasks that they're responsible for doing, then they can spend more time talking to their clients and moving deals to close transactions. So the challenge with this in Follow Boss is there's not a lot of options for triggering this stuff. If you want to do a bunch of automation after an appointment, you need a trigger. When the appointment is created in Follow Boss, that needs to trigger other automation. Currently, appointments aren't triggers in Follow Boss. And each action taken in Follow Boss could potentially have subsequent actions that need to be taken. If every action taken in Follow Boss can be a trigger for automation, then you can set Follow Boss on autopilot. And so this is what the old way of automating Follow Boss was. Anybody who's spent any time in Zapier can probably relate. And our goal is to turn automation into flipping a switch. So who's excited about seeing how we can automate and turn Follow Boss into a lead conversion machine? Okay, here's our automation platform. So currently triggers include calls, emails, texts, notes, deals, and we actually added appointments. But eventually we're going to turn every single webhook in Follow Boss into a easily created trigger. People relationship, like a relationship in Follow Boss gets created, tasks being created or updated, marketing events. If an email is opened or clicked, we're going to build in timers, so stuff that runs on a recurring basis. Currently, actions include populating data to custom fields. So that's how we're building out more granular smart lists in Follow Up Boss, triggering action plans. Applying tags can be used to trigger automation within Follow Up Boss and also outside of the system. And so this allows you to prevent leads from slipping through the cracks. So going back to our smart list challenges. So if you have ISAs and OSAs on the same lead, dropping contacts off each other's smart lists, what you want to do is create a series of smart lists for ISAs and outside sales agents. So our system, we can create a parameter for last call by assigned agent. This entire workflow to turn on is just a switch in our system where you turn it on, it'll automatically create the parameter last call by assigned agent, and it'll turn on the entire automated workflow. So then anytime a call happens in Follow Boss, it checks to see, was this call originated by the assigned agent? And if it was, it's going to populate a date to the custom field. And so now you can build out specific assigned agent smart lists. And then you could have another workflow where it's, was the call by one of my ISAs or was the call by a lender? And now you can build in much more granular smart lists based on activity that has occurred in Follow Boss. And currently, this really doesn't exist anywhere else. You can also do stuff like scheduling the next call. So in Follow Boss, you're typically call happened more than a week ago. Now I want to have that contact appear back on the smart list. But with our system, you can do a parameter for when is the next follow-up. And so if a call happens and that call is 2 minutes or longer, I can schedule the next call for a week out. But if the call happens and it's only 30 seconds, now I may add 3 days and add a 3-day date to the next follow-up. And so you can dynamically schedule the calls rather than just having it a weekly or monthly. So it really makes smart lists much closer to how a dialer would operate. If anybody's ever used a multi-line dialer, now you can start having your contacts appear in smart lists the same way that a dialer would schedule out calls. And so we're implementing this with the Whistle Realty Group. And so we have a case study that we're going to provide to anybody who signs up that shows, a lot of you have seen the smart list planner that we sent out. That shows how to set up smart lists and how the Whistle team is setting up their smart list. But we're going to have a detailed explanation of how to set up the exact automation that fills the parameters for their smart list, screenshots of the process, the smart list definitions, the communication stages they use, and related automations in our system, and tips to set up the date parameters the smart lists are built off of. So agent accountability challenges. So you have new lead comes in, you want to make sure leads handled the way you've indicated to agents. So we can build out new contact comes in, wait for 4 hours. If the activity has been logged, we don't take any action. If the activity hasn't been logged, we can add a ISA as a collaborator or reassign to a pond. And we're essentially tying in Follow Boss's action plans, and then you could use other platforms like Zapier if you want to go really deep with it, to where when calls happen or emails or texts, we can record that in the system as either tags or in the parameters, and then use the existence of those tags or parameters to let our system know not to reassign it because it means they did what they were supposed to. Or if those aren't there, now we know it needs to go back to a pond. And so this can be done when the lead first comes in, but it also can be done at each stage. Set an appointment. Now you have different follow-up criteria. And so the system checks to make sure that criteria is met. If it's not, add an ISA on or reassign it. And then, so one of the teams we have set up on this is Siri Roll's team in Carlsbad, Brand Realty. One of our add-ons is showing exactly how we set that up. Step-by-step instructions for setting up automations using our platform. And if you want to take it to the next level, Zapier has a lot of capabilities. So we can use our calls or texts or email triggers to then amplify the capabilities of Zapier. We'll have screenshots of the actual process, detailed instructions on how to implement. And so now agent training challenges, how to use Follow Boss at each of the different stages. What we can do is with deal triggers, appointment triggers, emails, instead of training them on what to do after these different things happen, we can just build it into the workflow. So appointment happens, you want a deal created, you set up our system to create the deal. If you want to, after a call happens, you want a action plan to run, we can make that happen. You're systematically eliminating the stuff that your agents have to do in Follow Boss, because no matter how much you train them, they're just not going to do it 100% of the time regardless. So here come the goodies. So automation platform annual subscription, that for 250,000 automated actions is about 1,500 for the year. In Zapier, 250,000 automated actions would be about $1,500 a month. So since we're focusing on more high volume stuff, calls, texts, notes being added, updates to the person record or the deal, were much less expensive because you couldn't even use Zapier for this type of stuff. So the add-ons are the Whistle, Realty Group, Smart List, templates, and setup instructions. If we were to sell that as a course, it'd typically be around $500. Same thing for the brand Realty, automated accountability setup instructions. And for this subscription, we're going to include 4 hours of done for you automation. So you just let us know what you want to automate and we'll do it for you. So typically we would charge $250 an hour. So the typical price for that would be about $3,500. If you want to go with an option that only has 50,000 automated actions, that would be about $1,000 a month. And that will include the same add-ons, but we don't have done for you. We include 2 30-minute automation strategy sessions. So that would be about $2,300. So for this product launch, it's only $11.99 for the 250,000. So this is for the entire year. And if you go with the 50,000 option, it's only $7.99. We also have quarterly options. So if you want to do quarterly 250,000 actions, that would be $387 for the quarter. You get the add-ons, Whistle Team and Brand Realty add-ons as well. We don't have any done for you on the quarterly though. That would typically cost $13.81. With the 50K, it would be about $12.61. And so for our launch today, you can do it for $349 for the quarter or $249. And so here are the different options. Here's the annual for 250K actions, the annual for, or no, here's the annual for 50,000, and here's the quarterly option. So if you scan this QR code, it'll redirect you to a page where you can select one of those options and subscribe. All of these options include the add-ons, so the Whistle Realty and Brand Team. These two also include the done for you services, but these don't. And so now we're going to go into the question section, but I'm going to leave this up for now. So does anybody have any questions? Justin, do you see anything?
No questions in the questions channel yet. You guys can use the Q&A
Yeah,
button
I
at
think
the
we also
bottom.
have it. I think we have some in chat. So let's see. This is an add-on service to FUB.
Yeah, Jesse, there'll be a recording of it.
Let's see. Yeah, so we are a third-party service. This would be an add-on to Follow Boss. Let's see. Andrew says, this is looking great. Daniel, total no-brainer to set this up for your team. This will pay for itself after the first couple months. Awesome. Thanks, Andrew. Let's see if there's any other questions.
Jen has a question about owning it. The reality is if you set those integrations up with make.com or Zapier or anything like that, you don't own any of that either. If you cancel your subscription there, that's all gone.
Yeah. a similar type of solution to Make or Zapier. The difference is we're a lot less expensive and we're building stuff specifically for Follow Boss and to make it easy to use. And so actually, pull up the actual system to give you an idea of the difference.
And we got a couple more. We got Talal, maybe. Sorry if I mispronounced your name, but like, how would you use your system to revive 10,000 cold leads?
To
That's an interesting use
revive
case.
10,000 cold leads. Let's see. So, a couple ways to revive cold leads. One, retargeting is probably the best option. But another option is just sending out one really great option for sending out, or like getting people back in contact is just sending an email that titled, a lot of you are on this call because of an email that I sent. So it just says quick question, are you still interested in? So quick question, are you still interested in purchasing a new home or selling your home? Now, what our system would do is we would set it up to where a call happens, and if the stage is nurture, after a certain amount of time, automate that email. But if you're just trying to revive 10,000 cold leads now, I'd go lead by lead and send out a similar email. Let's see. Okay, so going back to the differences between us and Make and Zapier, we're going to have stuff like this. These are automated templates. So right now we have last call by signed agent, last email by signed agent, last text by signed agent. You can set up the entire workflow just by toggling a switch. And so as we build out more stuff, as teams build out more workflows that other teams are finding value for, we can turn that entire workflow into just a toggle switch. And so now you're turning on automation just by pressing a button instead of building out a whole workflow. But we also do have the workflow system where you can come in and build out an entire workflow. But the difference between our system and Make or Zapier is we have all these triggers pre-built in. In Make or Zapier, you got to use webhooks and know how to create webhooks in Follow Boss to get stuff like this built in. Where ours, if you want to do a call trigger, you just select call trigger. Now you have a call trigger. You don't have to, we create the webhook for you. And so with stuff like Zapier and Make, they're building out the stuff that is utilized the most. And then it's more complicated if you want to go more granular. Ours, we're building in the granular stuff because we're focusing on Follow Boss and a handful of platforms. So we expect to have, we'll be adding probably like open to close, automation stuff, other platforms in real estate. We'll build in triggers and actions. Right now, we started with Follow Boss though. Let's see. Do we have any other questions? Mm,
Doesn't look like it right now. Jen asks, do we lose access to anything InterFace builds out within our FUB accounts if we end our subscription?
Yeah. So if anything's built out in Follow Boss itself, then you wouldn't lose access to that. But any workflows that are built in our system, it's an ongoing subscription. Our platform's built on Amazon Web Services. We pay them each month to utilize their cloud-based infrastructure. And then we provide a monthly recurring subscription to our users, have these capabilities. Same way you pay Follow Boss on a monthly or yearly recurring basis or any other software these days. Remember back in the day when you used to go to Best Buy and buy a software package and then go and load it to your computer? That was a nightmare. Let's see, any other questions? It doesn't look like we have any questions, so while we're here, I'm going to go ahead and first, for those of you that are still here, just want to thank you for attending. We're very excited about launching this platform. We've been working on it for well over a year, so super excited about it. But anybody who wants to get nerdy, I can go ahead and show our web form system. So this is a quick sneak peek for those who stuck around. All right, so what we just went over was our automation piece. This is our web form platform. So all the web forms in here will be able to be used as triggers in the automation platform. And then you can come in and if you want to have an offer form, looks a little weird. Let's go to a different form. All right. So you have a listing form. You get a new listing. You want to collect different data. What's the address, forecasted close date, when's the open house date? We have these different field options that you can drag over. And then in Follow Boss, those appear directly in an embedded app. So this is beta testing right now, listing form. So here's the form. Build it here. You can require fields. You can make fields hidden. You can have conditions where if the price is above a certain amount, then show another field, and all of that is going to appear directly in here. So any questions on the form system? Yeah, question. So if we already have 1.0, can we transfer those forms and automations if we upgrade to 2.0? I have a better option for you. Everybody who has 1.0 has access to the 2.0 forms. It doesn't require an upgrade. It's the same subscription. If you want to play around with the 2.0 system now, I can set that up in your account. And so right now the 2.0 system doesn't have all the same bells and whistles as the 1.0. Right now, all the 2.0 forms do is create notes. What we're doing over the next week to 2 weeks is we're connecting it to deals, and there's going to be a whole field mapping. So you'll be able to map a field on our form to the Follow Boss deal field bidirectionally. So if you add data onto the form, it'll show up in the Follow Boss deal. If you add data onto the deal field, when you open the form, the data will get pre-populated into the form. And so deals are what we're adding next. Then we need to connect appointments and all the other stuff that we have in 1.0. Once the functionality of 2.0 is relatively close to the 1.0 system, we'll have a way of duplicating the 1.0 forms into the 2.0 system, and then you can start using 2.0 for everything.
It's exciting stuff. I think we got a few more questions in the queue here as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, I figured the forms would generate some questions.
So what's support look like? That's a big hot topic deal for everybody. What's support look like within the interface world if anybody needs help or they're having issues setting up integrations, things like that?
Yeah, so we use Intercom, which has a widget that goes on our website. So you can always go on our website and open the chat widget and talk to us directly. If you send an email to support@interface.re, it goes to the same inbox. So you can chat with us that way. We provide links, client calendar links to all of our clients so they can schedule calls with us directly. So we're pretty on top of support. And as we grow, we'll just continue adding more and more people.
Perfect. We also have somebody saying, can you do a quick summary of value one more time for everybody that maybe joined a little bit late?
Yeah, so quick summary of value for the automation platform, which is what's available now, is you're going to build out better smart lists that are more effective and are going to prevent leads from slipping through the cracks. If your ISA calls a contact that your OSA is also working, right now that lead falls off your outside sales agent's smart list. And if they don't follow up within a week after their appointment, that's potentially a lead slipping through the cracks. So we're able to prevent that from happening. We can also automate agent accountability. So new lead comes in. If they're supposed to call, email, text within a certain time frame, we can use our system to check to make sure that has happened. If it's happened, then we don't do anything. If it hasn't happened, then we reassign it to another agent or to a pond or add an ISA on so that lead is being handled appropriately. And then the last piece is right now, there's a lot of stuff that your agents are doing in Follow Boss that they don't need to do. It would be much better use of their time to go and make another call than to create the deal in Follow Boss or to update the contact stage. And they're not going to remember to do it. Our system can automate when X happens, then do Y. It's going to remember to do it every time. and it's going to remove that work from the agent's plate so they can do what you want them to do, which is, talk to their clients and show houses and close transactions.
Yeah. And if you live in a camp of thinking, oh, I don't know, we'll create a smart plan automation and FUB that assigns tasks to remind the agent to do it. I have exposure to some of the largest databases that exist in the entire real estate industry that run on FUB. And there was one person that originally did something like that. And they had, I'm not exaggerating, millions of past due tasks inside of their follow boss. So their agents just won't see it. The more that we can make this stuff automatically happen behind the scenes, the better for not just agent retention, but honestly, if you're in ops or you're an owner or your team lead, for your own mental sanity as well.
Yeah, I noticed a couple other questions. So Patricia says, if we are mapping data from forms to Sisu, will we be able to set up that mapping as well? So that one, hopefully. Right now, Sisu is a little upset that we're launching analytics. So they've removed our access to their API for building new stuff. So our plan was to implement a field mapping in our system to go from our forms to them. We're definitely going to do that to open to close. So if you use open to close, which is by far the best transaction management platform for Follow Boss, you will be able to map fields there. I think actually open to close is even working on a field mapping. We will implement a field mapping to Sisu if they stand down and restore our access to the API, but right now we can't. So it's not up to us. But reach out to Sisu and let them know that you want to use our forms with their system and you want to be able to map the fields directly, and maybe they'll come around.
I don't think that there should be anything that would actually be stopping because there's use cases for all of this. So I
Oh
think
yeah, yeah. I mean,
if you're on, it's like not reason to cancel Sisu and move to this,
not
for
at all.
example. But I think if people just provide their own API key from Sisu, should be fine, actually.
Oh
So
no, we definitely can still connect to Sisu and all of our integrations are still fully
yeah.
functional. It's just we don't have the connection to their API to be able to build new stuff. I don't know how that helps them. That's just where we're at right now. And I don't really blame them because we are building the most spectacular analytics platform for Follow Boss that will ever be in existence. So I can see why they're upset. But if enough users, reach out to them and say, hey, we want to use InterFace's 2.0 forms and be able to map fields directly to Sisu, I assume eventually they'll relent and provide us access again. Is the 1.0 like the Sisu form setup? Yeah, Mark, that's exactly what it is. 1.0 system is, so we have a lot of teams that use the 1.0 system just within Follow Boss and don't connect it to Sisu, but the 1.0 forms also is how we do the Sisu integration. And it's also currently how we're doing the open to close integration. And we even have the forms mapped to Salesforce for a team. Castle, appreciate that. The support has been amazing. Mahir, our customer support manager, is super awesome. So he'll be glad to hear that.
Yeah, I'm here for president. I'm here's
Yeah.
awesome.
Please don't use task. Yeah, definitely, Andrew. If you have multi-companies teams in your world, can they be programmed to each company or team in FUB? Need clarification there. The way our system's set up right now is we would need to have a new account for each team, but we do plan on building multiple teams into it. We've heard from coaches that they want to be able to access all their coaching clients from one place and giving that to a broker who has multiple teams underneath them is the same thing. We do plan on building in something like that, but for now, we would just have to create a new account for each team. And if that's what's necessary, we could provide discounts for additional necessary accounts. Let's see. Make sure I understand. I want to make sure I understand if we are an individual agent using FUB, my brokerage does not use it. Yeah, if you're an individual agent, you can definitely utilize this stuff. I'm assuming that means it's your Follow Boss account. So if it's your Follow Boss account, then yeah, the monthly plans, the start at $29 a month. So for $29 a month, you get 5,000 actions. That's a perfect option for a single agent. What about the texting integration? So Mark, yeah, we are going to be building Twilio integration into the automation platform. Right now, you have forms that we provided When you fill out the form, it creates a text template, and then you can use tags to trigger those text templates. Eventually, that whole process will be built into our system where you'll create the text templates in our system, and then when the tag gets applied, it'll be sent from there. And then we're gonna have other stuff to where you'll be able to send when stuff happens in Follow Boss. Like a perfect use case for this is text comes in, is sent to Follow Boss. Right now, the notifications are not great in Follow Boss. It's a push notification. What people want is text. And so what we can do is text comes into Follow Boss. We use that text as a trigger, and then you'll be able to send a text from Twilio to the assigned agent saying, hey, you just received a text from this person. Here's the text. Here's a link to the Follow Boss lead record. And now it's being handled better. If I knew someone who's deciding between Salesforce versus Follow Boss interface, what would you say? Are they a billionaire? If they're a billionaire, then they can afford Salesforce. So if they're a billionaire, then they may want to go Salesforce. Anybody who's not a billionaire, but here's the reality. Follow Boss is not as good as Salesforce or HubSpot. But since it's built specifically for real estate, like building Salesforce to work for real estate is much more challenging than building the stuff that Salesforce has into Follow Boss. Because Follow Boss already has IDX connections, and it already has the connections to all the different real estate lead sources. And so it's built for real estate. Trying to get somebody to build Salesforce for real estate, it's going to cost them like $250,000.
Actually, we have a handful of clients in the past that have actually spent $250,000 to $500,000 to build out a custom Salesforce instance just to actually roll it all back to Follow Boss. It coming out of the box and just working. The thing that you should know about Salesforce is that it's a complex software and you need somebody on staff or retained that knows Salesforce at all times to be able to make simple changes to it. So it's not just the cost of the software, which will be much more expensive to use than Follow Boss. It also won't come out of the box ready to use for real estate. So you have to spend a few $100,000 getting it up to speed, and your maintenance costs on it moving into the future will be way too expensive to justify. HubSpot is the same, by the way. We've seen both. Personally, our agency runs on both the real estate side and the e-commerce side. So lots of experience with Salesforce and HubSpot and Keep and Infusionsoft and all of those, right? That is the reality, is that there's a reason why so many of the largest teams, real estate teams that exist on the planet at this point are all on Follow Boss, because out of the box, it solves as many problems as possible for any CRM that exists, and its maintenance fees are not super high. And your license fees in Salesforce, they're not going to be $1,000 a month for a team of 15. They're going to be like $3,000, $4,000 a month. Plus, they also charge for how many contacts you have in it. So all of that to say, I have gone down this road with some of the biggest companies that exist in our industry, and none of them are running on Salesforce anymore. They tried it and it does not work, and they rolled it all back. So
I think we have a couple more. Let's see. What about HubSpot? Mark, can you clarify that? Oh, and for Zillow. So a lot of people are concerned about Zillow buying Follow Boss, but the updates that have happened to showing time have been fantastic. So if that's the same path for Follow Boss, I'm not too concerned about it.
yeah, and the whole BlackRock thing, by the way, guys, I consult for Follow Boss on the product side. So I'm very intimately familiar with the product roadmap and everything that's happening at FUB. I have absolute confidence in their ability to perform and increase the functionalities of the platform moving forward. And the BlackRock thing is also like saying that Vanguard owns a ton of Zillow. It's not the entity itself. So I don't know, I have a piece of the S&P 500 with Vanguard through my brokerage account. So technically, yeah, Vanguard owns a ton of Zillow stock because it's within that, or Apple or whatever. It's not that company owns a giant chunk of Zillow. They are facilitating investments on behalf of everyday people like you and I that have stock in these companies, right? So Zillow is not owned by one company straight out. BlackRock does not have influence over them. And also Lloyd and Rich have super shares, just like Zuckerberg has it at Meta, where their shares are 10 votes per share when everybody else's shares are 1 vote per share. So they have the ability to continue to maintain a founder-led environment at Zillow for a long time. So I would not worry about any of that conspiracy theory, sorry to name it that way, Mark, but like of BlackRock owning Zillow and being the Death Star and ruining real estate. So
Awesome. So I think we just came up on an hour. That's pretty perfect timing.
yeah.
Looks like the questions have died down. So I think we can wrap this up.
Daniel, there's one more question in the Q&A.
Okay, let's see. How do we get this recording? Okay, we'll send an email out with the recording probably tomorrow. Actually, it'll probably be Monday or Tuesday next week. Let's not be overly ambitious here. So yeah, you'll definitely have the recording early next week. Okay, so costs for solo people. So yeah, for the automation platform, we have plans starting at $29 a month. So $29 a month gets you 5,000 actions, and that's plenty for a solo agent. And $29 a month for automating potentially up to 5,000 tasks is a no-brainer. Yeah, same product. One difference is, so our starter subscription, you don't get as many triggers, and a couple triggers we're about to release are updates to deals and updates to a person. What you can use that for is if a specific field on a deal is updated, that can trigger automation. But the way Follow Boss is set up, the only way we can make that work is storing an internal database of all of your deals in our system. And then when we receive a webhook, we have to check to see what's the difference between the data now and what we have in our system. And then if the data on the specific field changes, then we trigger the automation. So that storage, we're not including those triggers in the starter plan. You have to be on the plus plan, which I believe starts at $89 a month. For the call, text, email, all that stuff, you get all of that, and it's $29 a month. Yeah, Maverick, I think Maverick's a great product. I think Maverick and Ylopo are great companies. It's a little expensive, and there is a lot of overlap with our system. The way I'm looking at our system is the analytics piece of Sisu combined with Maverick. But I don't know exactly what Maverick does. I don't know for sure if we've made them completely obsolete. I doubt that's the case. You know, they're a little bit different.
I think that's everything.
Yep, I think so. All right.
Awesome.
Really appreciate everyone's time. Anybody has any questions on the page where you can subscribe, you can also schedule a demo with us if you have more questions. We love talking to real estate agents and real estate team leaders. So schedule a call and we'll go from there.
Sweet. Sounds good. Well,
Awesome.
thanks for having me on. Great hanging out with everybody. And if for some reason you want to get a hold of me and you want to streamline all your technology in a much more custom way, baragency.com, you can book a consult there.
Yeah, reach out to Justin. Their team's amazing.
Thanks, dude. I appreciate it.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, everyone.